Introduction to our guest, Hervé Seligmann. The UK column interviewed Hervé back in 2021, July, and this was 2 episodes of No Smoke Without Fire, which was myself and Debbie, and we also had Dr. Yim with us. And on that note, we'd like to bring in our guest today, Hervé Seligmann, who's going to tell us a little bit about his research at the moment around matters to do with vaccines. Hervé, welcome back to UK Column. I can't really believe it's 2 years since we spoke to you.
Well, hello. I think many people heard recently about a Danish study suggesting that there were different levels of toxicity for vaccine batches from Pfizer, production batches, of course. But actually, very recent analysis that I did using a site that watches the VERS reports and is privately curated by a friend, Albert Benavides, shows that there are actually delays in the reports of the VERS report in the publication of the VERS reports, which is seen in this graph with different colors for different reports, reporting different types of events, from death to simple office visit after a vaccination, an injection. And what we find is that there are associations between the type of event and the level of delay, and also the age of the patient. So the younger, the fewer delays, but for the young, the delays are concentrated for the very severe events like death and permanent disability. For adults, we see the opposite. Now, in addition to that, there are batch-associated delays. It seems that there are sudden releases of data for one batch. Let's say a given week, you have zero reports in the VERS system for that batch, and then suddenly you have many. And that would explain apparently what happened with the different qualities of the Danish report, where they had batches with very few or almost no adverse reports that were presumed to be placebos. When you look at the number of VERS reports for these Danish batches, and that is the vertical axis on the graphics that you see here, I used the same color code as the Danish study: blue, highly toxic batches, green, medium toxicity, and yellow are actually the presumed placebo batches. So you plot the number of reports in VERS as a function of the recency, how recent a batch is, how recently expired it did. And that's the x-axis, the horizontal axis. You see that the recently expired batches are the yellow ones, and they have, because they are recent, few reports. And there are no different qualities here. You have a monotonous decrease in the number of reports as a function of time until the batch expires, and it's simply that point that we have here. So in short, there are no placebos. There probably is some variation in toxicity between the batches, but the major part, and certainly the part that is shown in the Danish study, is due to time and since the batches were used. The ancient batches have many cumulated reports, and the recent ones few. That's what I had to say. And such biases totally change our what we seem to understand from studies from VERS. Yes.
Hervé, thank you very much for that. Just to home in on the simple stuff, first of all, we've got a delay between a VERS report, that's a report of harm equivalent to the yellow card system, which we use here in the UK. We've got a delay between the reports and the publishing of information about possible vaccine side effects. And that delay has then impacted on the way that more detailed reports have been compiled. I've got to say to you, first of all, am I understanding that bit correctly?
Exactly. That is exactly what is happening. These delays, and they are not random, they are batch associated with, which can make that a batch a given week has zero side effects, apparently, and then a week later there is a massive release of these data. They probably administratively cumulate per batch and then suddenly decide according to some kind of order which batch will be released. And it's related, of course, to how recent the batch is. Ancient batches will have everything already released and the others less, sometimes zero, and then suddenly a data release, and then they are suddenly at 500 or 1,000 reports for that batch.
Okay, so as a qualified scientist yourself, what reason can you give the audience, or can you think of, for such delays to come into being? Is this just incompetence, or are there other factors at work? What do you think has been the cause of these delays?
Well, I'm a scientist, not an administrator, but in short, it makes sense to cumulate for one batch the reports and then publish them, but it creates distortions that will make look as if it's an illusion that some batches have no reports. But what is more problematic is that you have delays that correlate, that are associated with the type of event, like longer delays for deaths, but only in children, while shorter delays, fewer long delays for deaths for adults. And then for mild secondary effects, you have exactly the opposite again. For children, no or few delays, but for adults, you have a lot of delays. So that makes not much sense. In addition, the VAERS reports frequently miss information such as the age data. So it actually means that in 2/3 of these cases where the age data is missing, it is in the report, but somewhere else than at the location where it's say what age is the person. But in the report itself, in the case description, you have a 5-year-old child died from the Pfizer vaccine. And that example is not random. The missing age data will again tend to be more often missing at the right location if it is a child and if the event is very severe, and vice versa for milder events. So that, I don't know how to explain it by some kind of benign administrative explanation, but I'm not within the administrative processes and mechanisms. And I actually had never any experience with these things.
Hervé, thank you very much for that. And of course, your example of a child is very significant because, of course, deaths are very sad and emotive for many people. But if it's the death of a child, particularly a young child, that really captures the attention of the public. We've got a number of different factors coming into play here. So there's the age of the people, there's the circumstances. This cannot possibly be random. I'm very careful commenting on statistics because I don't claim to have any special knowledge or ability with statistics. But it seems to me that if you have a number of well-defined subsets, ages, and where events took place, and all of these are suffering a delay, this has got to be orchestrated by the administration releasing this information, surely.
So the benign explanation would be that there is a prioritization according to age and according to the gravity, the severity of the event. So there are only 8% delays for the children, and 30% for the adults. But when there is a significant delay for children, then it's more likely to be for a severe event. The first one would be some kind of administrative prioritization that makes sense, but the other not so much. and I cannot. And then again, the age data missing at the correct location in the form, but actually being in the form. This is not random. I'm certain it's not random. I don't know why it is like that.
Okay. Hervé, thank you very much for giving us that update. A lot of questions to be answered around that. And I'll say to you today, I hope that you will come and join us again to delve deeper into this, because, of course, in UK, we have the same major concerns about data released or withheld by the MHRA around the yellow card, so-called vaccine signals. But thank you very much for joining us. Debbie, ideal. Two